Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the zoning board. It's Friday, April 8th at 11 a.m. We're going to start off with the minutes. Does anybody have any questions or corrections to the minutes? Any of the members?
No.
Okay. No corrections or adjustments. So do I have a motion to accept the minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Aye. Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Good job on the minutes. Next today, we have three determinations, and the files are available at Village Hall for viewing. The first is the application of House on the Pond, 10 Lockwood Lane, Suffolk County Tax Map number 131015, to raise existing improvements within setbacks, to install, fill, and grade the property, to install vegetated buffer adjacent to wetlands, and to construct new single-family residence and accessory structures is approved. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
All right. Pam, would you like to poll the board?
Sure. Mr. O'Connell,
Yes.
Mr. Rose,
Yes.
Ms. Doyle.
Yes.
And that's all that sat on that application, as I recall.
Yes.
In the application of Quercos, 27 East LLC, 103 Montauk Highway, Suffolk County Tax Map number 7-6-14.2, to reconstruct a pre-existing non-conforming residence and to construct a patio, a porch, and a window well is approved. May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
A second.
Pam, will you poll the board, please?
Sure. Mr. O'Connell,
Yes?
Mr. Rose,
Yes.
Ms. Doyle,
Yes.
Mr. Barris.
Yes.
Thank you.
In the matter of 12 West Dune LLC, we received the survey showing the sheds to be removed, dated March 14th, 2022. So I need a motion. This hearing had been left open to receive that survey. So I need a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Now we'll move on to the determination of that same property in the application of 12 West Dune LLC, 12 West Dune Lane, Suffolk County Tax Map number 9-4-22, to construct additions to a pre-existing non-conforming residence is approved. May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
All right. Pam, will you poll the board?
Sure. Mr. O'Connell,
Yes.
Mr. Rose. I'm sorry, I missed it. Mr. Rose? Oh, he's frozen maybe.
Pam's present.
You good?
Yes.
Ms. Doyle,
Yes.
Mr. Barris.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. We had one more determination that was on in the application of Acacia Green LLC, 8 Marina Lane, Suffolk County Tax Map number 8-10-45. The applicant has requested that we hold off on voting on this until the next meeting. Okay. Is Mr. Tarbett here? I know he had to run out to a fire to serve the community.
And the applicant was also waiving his right to a decision within the statutory 62 days.
Okay, great. Next, we have the continued hearing of Coup LLC, 17 Turbo Lane. Pam, could you just remind us who's sitting on this application, please?
Sure. Mr. O'Connell, Mr. Rose, Ms. Doyle, Mr. Carmeli.
Okay. So who's here for the applicant?
I think the applicant.
Mrs.
Okay.
Gray is here.
Okay. So can we hear from Mrs. Gray?
Am I muted?
No, we can hear you.
Okay.
Mrs. Gray, let me swear you in.
Oh,
Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Maggie F. Gray. And my address is 17 Turbell Lane, East Hampton, New York,
you swear-
11937.
Sorry. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Did you have something you wanted to say?
Oh, well, I'd love to know how you left my application.
Well, so Billy, you received at the prior meeting, we had
Yes.
asked that there be sound attenuating fence and plantings to surround the generator to block it from the neighbor. I believe that all that was received was planting three plants. Is that correct, Billy?
Well, I don't know if that was a formal submission. Bruce Horowitz had emailed me and asked if that's what the board was looking for. And I responded that it was my understanding the board had requested sound attenuation materials, which typically consists of stockade fencing and the fabric, the sound attenuation fabric material. And I had not received a response since, so.
So
If I could, I'll fill people. This is Bruce Horowitz. I haven't been sworn in, but I'd like to speak to just set the stage for Maggie's comments.
Sure. Raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Bruce Horowitz, 16 Salt Marsh Path, East Hampton.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
After the last ZBA hearing that I attended, I brought the information back to Maggie. I called and to try to find more information about the sound attenuation approach. And we then had a meeting, an on-site meeting with Michael Marin from East Hampton Fence and Gate. And at the time we were looking at it, and he was very surprised that this was being required. Not that that factors into what you're doing, but it did into our meeting and our conversation. We talked about it a little bit, talked about what could have been, what can be done there. And he was advising us at this point that we go back to the board to talk about it more and Maggie be present. So that's where we're at this point. Maggie's had subsequent meetings with a few other people there.
And I have had a few visits from some of you. I don't recall anybody's name in particular, and because I can't see more than a few faces on this. Interesting that they visited the property, but never visited the generator. And instead, they just sort of went down to the pond and looked at the boardwalk leading down to the pond. And I think having had this meeting with a few other people, one in particular is a botanist, and he absolutely could prove to you that a tree would be much more soundproof, would provide much more soundproofing than a fence, even though the fence might have a plastic coating on the inside. And I'm happy to do anything that you would like to have done for the generator. I think it's an unusual situation because we are 250 feet from the neighbor. And we also have on the border the Nature Conservancy property that was given by Sidney Lumet 45 years ago. I I don't quite understand what you want, why you would want me to put up a fence, because it's already, you can't see it. You can't see it. You can't hear it. And none of my neighbors even know it's there. So we're the only ones that can see it. And the only reason we can see it is because we had to put in a new septic system in January, and they chopped down two of the cryptomerias that were probably 30 feet high. So obviously that would reveal a generator. I'm happy to put in more cryptomeria. Gosh, they're not the most sustainable tree, but they do the job. You just have to maintain them a whole lot more because they produce a lot of dead bark underneath, and hence it makes it much more flammable. But I'm happy.
I'm losing.
Yeah, we're losing.
I think
We can't hear you anymore.
you're covering the microphone.
Oh. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
What do you think you missed?
Last I heard, you're happy to do anything that.
You know what? I think before we do anything, would anybody like to come back and visit the site and see what we're talking about? Unless it's crystal clear in your minds what you're talking about.
So do any of the board members have any comments?
I actually do, because most of the thoughtful commentary that she directed at us would be applicable if we were speaking about some sort of visual pollution or a line of sight pollution. This is about noise, and noise travels, bounces, and often is contained through a variety of steps. It's very rarely, unless you encase something completely, that is noise proof. And I haven't visited the site, but I've installed generators, and I've dealt with similar issues. First of all, whether it's required or not, it's always a good idea to have a fence around your generator, regardless of how remote it is. It's just good practice. And as long as there's a fence around it, and since it can't be seen anyhow, it's not visually detrimental to their views or the neighbors' views. And as long as the fence goes in, adding in some soundproofing material it doesn't solve it completely, but goes away towards cutting down noise in case the generator goes down, and neighbors who can't see it will certainly be able to hear it. It seems like such a low imposition and a good idea, even if it's not for sound, just for safety and containment, to have a fence around it. So, unless there's something I'm missing in terms of complexity or difficulties, not the cost, the trees would cost a lot more of putting a fence around this. I'm not understanding the hardship.
So the issue.
Okay.
Let me just fill in partner. Maggie, did you want to talk first?
No, you talk.
Well, I was just going to say that when we were out there with Michael Moran who would have been putting up the fencing, it wasn't even clear to him really what the board wanted in terms of where it would be. In other words, there's a straight line that would be the most obvious thing on the property boundary. And that's that would still allow, a fair amount of sound to travel in other directions. It's not clear what it would be blocking the sound from other than that stretch. The only thing that would make it, I guess, be most clear in terms of if it was really a critical sound issue would be to enclose the generator. In other words, a fence around the generator, basically a shed around the generator. It wasn't clear that's what was being asked for. Michael was saying that he didn't think that would be necessary and that it would have to be fairly large because you need space to be able to get in and service it. And the space that's there, it would fill up the space that is currently there until you got up to the house itself, their house. So it wasn't quite as obvious as you're saying that it is.
No, I said I hadn't visited it yet, so my apologies. I was just speaking in generalities.
I think it's a very good idea for you to visit, especially given the fact that the only time we would use the generator is if everybody we lost our electricity, and it's just it isn't like having a neighbor with a swimming pool And we are 250 feet away. And I'm sure that there are plenty of people who have generators that are not enclosed, that are within 250 feet of their neighbors.
Mr. Chairman?
I would be happy to have you visit. I
Any
don't know
other-
what your name is because it doesn't say, it just says SK.
Shahab Carmeli.
It's what?
Shahab Carmeli.
Okay. Shahab, if you'd like to come visit, I would welcome the chance to have you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, may I inquire just briefly, please?
Yes.
Thank you. To the applicant or her representative, how old is the generator?
I believe we put it in 2008.
Okay. And, you know, from my experience litigating these issues, as well as being involved in development, the best way to prohibit or capture noise is when you get it as close as possible to the source. So if you can come up with a solution that is close to the source and will mitigate the adverse impact of any potential noise, I think the board is always open to suggestions on other things. But to be fair, I think if you probably did some kind of noise analysis, you would find that generator is not really all that quiet.
Okay. Bruce, what would you like to say on that?
I'm at it. I think it's really just a question of Maggie speaking to the people at this point.
So
Okay. I'm happy to speak to the people about this because ever since I've received this notice from you, I've been noticing noise. And we live on a very quiet street. But now that spring is appearing slowly but surely, I've noticed the leaf blowers, and I can tell you that the sound of the leaf blowers is so much louder than our generator, and that seems to go on every day. And our generator only goes on whenever you need it. If everybody's lost their electricity, it just goes on then.
Okay, so you're asking for a variance to have the generator where it is.
Yes.
What we are saying is we're urging you to come up with a sound attenuation and planting plan that would be acceptable to the village. Okay? If you have, I would suggest maybe you meet with Billy or Tom out at the property, or Bruce, you can reach out to them. And if you'd like, we'll hold the hearing open so that can be done. Or, we could close the hearing and vote on what's in front of us, which probably isn't the best idea. So Bruce,
Yes.
Maggie, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, no, I think that's a good suggestion. I guess the question would be who to reach out to, who would like to see the site. And yes, we would like to keep the hearing open.
Okay. All right, so we'll all take a look, we'll take a look at the site again. The reason people walk down to the pond is because you have a two-part application. Part of it is with the Phragmites also. So that's why, people were also looking at the pond. Any other board members have any questions or comments?
The only comment I would like to add is that I do agree with her on the leaf blowers, and it was up to me, I would just outlaw them in the village. I think they're severe source of nuisance and unnecessary because we don't live on 50-acre farms. So I don't use them on my property, for the record, by the way.
Okay. All right, so we will move on now to, do I have a motion to keep the hearing open?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great. We'll talk to you next week. Bruce, either get with Billy or Tom. Okay?
Great, thank you.
All right,
Yeah.
so let's move on.
May
to the-
13th is the next meeting, May 13th.
Okay. Pam, you want to read the notice of hearing?
Sure. Application of Maidstone Club, Inc., Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-9411 for a special permit and variance in accordance with Chapter 278 zoning and Chapter 163 freshwater wetlands to install a series of leaching pipes and sump pump to capture storm water runoff and transfer it to an existing retention pond. A freshwater wetlands permit and variances are required in accordance with Chapter 163 and Section 278-385 to install approximately 1,422 linear feet of drainage piping, a pump station and a wet well, and associated power supplies within wetland setbacks. A special permit is requested in accordance with Section 278-7D for the extension and installation of structures associated with a membership club. The subject property is 33.87 acres and is located at 95 Dunmere Lane. The property is located in Residence District R160 in flood zone AE elevation 10 and has frontage on Hook Pond. This project is classified as an unlisted action in accordance with SEQA.
Mr. O'Connell, I'm recusing myself from this hearing, this application.
Okay, thank you. Who is here for the applicant?
Good morning, this is Drew Bennett speaking. I'm engineer for the Maidstone Club, and I do business at 74 Montauk Highway in East Hampton Village. And with me this morning, yes?
She just has to swear you in.
Yes,
Oh,
let me
okay,
swear you.
sorry.
You said where your name and address. So do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So I was saying, I'm Drew Bennett, and with me this morning is Ken Koch, representing the Maidstone Club, and Steve Giles from my office. And as Pam summarized, we're requesting a special permit and variance to install additional subsurface stormwater drainage on the 16th fairway, which is located on the south side of Dunmere Lane, just west of the stone bridge that goes over Hook Pond. This effort is an extension of the same type of work that the village permitted in the spring of 2020. The 2020 work was done on the second fairway, which is on the north side of Dunmere, as well as other areas of the 16th fairway. The first work that was done in 2020 was done as a pilot or a test, and it's worked very well and has reduced the golf course irrigation water demand. And the club would like to expand it moderately in a certain area of the 16th fairway. The project is 1,422 linear feet of underground slotted pipe that drains into an underground sump pump that pumps the water via an existing pipeline to an irrigation reservoir that already exists that the club uses for golf course irrigation during dry periods. The work that was done in 2020 included 3 underground sump pumps, so those are already exist and continue to operate. And all of the proposed work is within the maintained areas of the golf course, and the system only operates during the golf season, which is approximately April through October. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
So first I'd like to go to the public to see if anybody's on for the Maidstone Club.
Yes,
Any public?
there's some callers on the line. Let me unmute. So caller ending with 8019, you're on the line.
If you're here for the Maidstone Club, just say, you can say you're here for the Maidstone Club. If you're not, just say you're not here for the Maidstone Club. So
Caller Roseanne.
Yeah, no, I'm here for Guildhall, not the Maidstone Club.
All right, we'll go to the next caller. Caller ending with 3393, you're on the air.
It's Eric Fischel. I'm here for the Guildhall.
All right, we'll go to the next caller. Caller ending with 9713, you're on the line.
Yes, I'm here for Guildhall. I'm Sarah Strickland.
Okay, we'll go to the next caller. Caller ending with 6132, you're on the air.
I'm here for Guildhall.
All right, next caller. Caller ending with 5145, you're on the air.
Yeah, this is Carl DeBoer. I'm here for Guildhall.
Okay, we'll go to the next caller. Caller ending with 8212, you're on the air.
I'm here for Guildhall.
Okay, and we'll go to the last caller. Caller ending with 5470, you're on the air.
Oh, hi, it's Mary Jane Brock. I'm here for Guildhall.
Okay, that's all the callers, so it seems they're all for the last topic.
Roll call. Okay. Do any board members have any comments or questions for Drew?
I have a question, and Drew may be able to answer or not. I look, any efforts towards recycling, conservation, making the club more green are always welcome. I'm not qualified or knowledgeable enough to know what the impact of the digging is on the local conditions. I assume that's handled and is positive. So generally, I support any effort towards this. My one question is that, given the use of, I assume you use chemicals to keep your lawn as beautiful as it looks, does this elevate the level of concentration once you're recycling these of the chemicals that are being used, the fertilizers and so on and so forth? Does this process elevate the concentration? Has no impact on it?
It has no impact on it because it's basically the same water that they're pumping for irrigation. So rather than the water recharging the groundwater table, this water collects it before it recharges or flows into the pond and recycles it for future irrigation use. So in my estimation, there would be no concentration of any fertilizer or anything like that as far as the recycling system is concerned. Maybe Ken wants to expand on that, but that's, in my estimation, that's.
Yeah, no. Pam, do you need to swear me in?
Yes, I do. Thanks. Raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, Ken Koch, 18 Phoebe Story Road, East Hampton.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
So yeah, I agree with everything Drew said. Really the beauty of the irrigation system, which we've had since 2012, is so that the superintendent can better water in products. So we found that it actually has reduced the amount of product that we've had to put out there, other than relying on Mother Nature, which sometimes cooperates or sometimes doesn't, or does it too much. So yeah, we look at this as a total beneficial program. This leg of the drainage actually completes the 3 wet holes that we have. We don't have a need for it in any other areas of the golf course. So it's really a completion of what we started. So again, we feel it's very beneficial.
That was my question, is if we're going to see more of this, but it sounds like this is the last leg.
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
So I just want to underscore what my colleague raised in terms of chemical and fertilizer sensitivity. I have no problem with this application. I think that this project makes sense, but going forward and on renewals of removal and maintaining of the buffers, it would be very helpful to discuss the next time the club comes back for anything, to just fill us in on the approach towards irrigation, fertilizing, and runoff into the pond.
Mr. Chairman, another question.
Go ahead. Mr. Barris?
Yeah, did Billy Hayjack make a report on this, or can he chime in on this, or Billy?
Sure. Yeah, I did not provide the board with a written report, mainly because I thought this was more or less a continuation of the prior project that the board approved. Based on my conversations with Drew Bennett and observations of watching the first phase be installed, I don't have significant concerns with the project. I know that the pump system is designed to be situated above the groundwater table, so it will not be pulling from groundwater. It's only moving stormwater. The course completed the first phase in I would say a surgical fashion. They have an interest in not disturbing more than they really have to. And when I witnessed the work, it was mainly done with handheld tools and equipment, and I like in a very surgical fashion. And, the only recommendation I would have is, if the need arises for, silt fencing, I mean, there aren't large piles of material being moved around here, but I think in areas where they're very close to wetlands, it's appropriate to put up just some containment, in terms of wire back silt fencing.
When we receive the DEC permit, that's a requirement, so that will be done.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's my only comment.
Thanks, Billy.
Thanks, Mr. Barris. Jodi Gambino said somebody else called in. Jodi, you just want to check if they're for Guildhall or if they're for
Sure.
the Maidstone Club?
Caller ending with 6622. What are you calling in about?
Guildhall.
Okay, I'll put you on hold.
If nobody else has any comments or questions, I think this just finishes out the project. We'll close the public hearing. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Aye.
All right. And do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 All
Thank
right.
you, everyone. Thanks, Pam.
Great. Next up, we have Guildhall, 158 Main Street. Pam, do you want to read the public hearing notice, please?
Yes, application of Guildhall of East Hampton, Inc., Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301853 for a special permit and variances in accordance with Chapter 278 zoning to make alterations to an existing theater use and construct accessory improvements. A special permit is requested in accordance with Section 278-7D to make alterations to the building and construction of accessory building and accessory structures in connection with the special permit use of the property. A 3,464 square foot variance is requested from Section 278-3A9 to permit 33,325 square feet of coverage, where 29,861 square feet presently exists and 9,170 square feet is the maximum permitted by zoning. Variances are requested from Sections 278-3A3, 4, and 5, and 278-3E1 and 2 to permit the construction of the following improvements: a stairway / light well 14.8 feet and 19.6 feet from the front yard lot lines where the required setbacks are 50 feet, an ADA accessible ramp 20 feet from the front yard lot line where the required setback is 50 feet, 2 terraces located 2.4 feet and 2.9 feet from the front yard lot lines where the required setbacks are 55 feet, a storage shed located 9 feet from the rear yard lot line where the required setback is 34 feet, 2 pedestrian walkways located 0 feet from the front and rear yard lot lines where the required setbacks are 34 feet, and resurfacing and enlargement of an existing parking area to be located 0 feet from the front and side yard lot lines where the required front yard setback is 55 feet and the side yard setback is 34 feet. A variance is requested from Section 278-3E2 for the omission of landscape plantings within 34-foot transitional yard setback. A variance is requested from Section 278-7C2 to permit the alteration of a building containing a non-conforming theater use located in a residential district and any other relief necessary. The property is 45,848 square feet in size and is located at 158 Main Street. The property is located in Residence District R80 and the Main Street Historic District. This project requires approval of the Design Review Board and is classified as an unlisted action in accordance with SEQA.
Okay. So who is here for the applicant? Who's speaking on the applicant's behalf?
Hi, yeah. Phil, I'm going to speak for the applicant.
Okay.
This is Lenny Ackerman. Can we hear? I know there's Florida.
You're fading in and out, Lenny.
Frozen. Yeah, that's the problem. Is it on my end or is it your end? Is it my internet?
I think it's on
I think
your
maybe
end.
I should. Okay, Phil, if you could just give me a minute, I'm going to have my office connect me through the phone. Just 1 second.
I can hear you now.
Can you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And we have
Phil, you may
green
want to just
tea, please.
sit down. Okay.
Let me do the phone connection. Allie, can you connect me through the phone? Yeah, just bear with me one sec, Phil. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Phil, you may want to just see who's on the case.
Yeah, Pam, you want to read who's going to be sitting on this application?
Sorry, thanks.
Okay, it'll just take a minute, please.
All right, we're just going to read who's on the application.
Sorry, so I think it'll be our two alternates. Plus Mr. O'Connell, Mr. Rose, Ms. Doyle, Mr. Barris, and Mr. Carmeli.
Okay, great.
So there'll be 5 of you.
Thank you.
And Lenny, before you get started, I'm just going to see, Andrea Grover, are you the representative for Guildhall?
Yes.
Okay. I think it would be helpful for the callers. There's a lot of callers on the line, and a lot of the comments have to do with the inside of Guildhall, over which we do not have jurisdiction. Billy's looked back in the files to see if there's any agreements, covenants, etc. So perhaps you could, if you could say now who they should contact at Guildhall if they have concerns about the inside, because these are your patrons, these are your donors, these are the people that you serve.
Of course.
So,
Of course. Pam, do I need to be sworn in for this part?
Yes, please. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Okay.
Hold on, please. Wait a minute. Phil, just one second. Sorry. I couldn't hear you.
So Lenny, all we're doing is we're having, because we don't have jurisdiction over the inside, we're having Ms. Grover give contact information so that the public can reach out to the appropriate people at Guildhall about their concerns about the inside, since they are the patrons, donors, etc.
I understand that. Sure. Thank you.
And Len, I'm swearing her in. So do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Sure thing. And I'm Andrea Grover, I'm the executive director of Guildhall, and my home residence is 21 Wooded Path, Sag Harbor. Anyone who would like to speak to me about the improvements at Guildhall can reach me via email at agrover, like Grover Cleveland, at guildhall.org. And my direct office line is 631-324-1831. Happy to take your calls and questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to be clear in terms of my understanding that the nature of the ZBA's jurisdiction in this case, it's not that it has nothing to do with anything that's internal, because there is a an ongoing use variance issue, but the criteria pursuant to which we have any decision making is very narrowly defined for the purpose of this. It doesn't go to the historic or other kind of qualities. There are some use related issues, but it's not a broad.
It doesn't. Yes, it doesn't allow us to govern the ceiling of the theater.
Just want to be clear. It's not that there's no crossover in terms of jurisdiction, but very, very limited and narrowly defined.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you for the clarification. That's correct. All right. Mr. Ackerman, would you like to move forwards and present?
Yes, thank you. Lenny Ackerman on behalf of Guildhall. Obviously, this is an important application, and it's understandable that there is significant community interest. I'm sure Andrea will speak to those who have questions with respect to the interiors and will deal with their concerns and their issues. First, I'd like to introduce witnesses for today who will speak and who are available to answer any questions of the board or the public. Peter Penoyer, who's the principal architect on the project, will make a short introductory statement of the project. Ed Hollander, who is the landscape architect, is available to answer any questions. Brian Farron, who is the technology expert on the project, And of course, you've met Andrea Grover. Firstly, I want to thank Billy for an memorandum. He has always laid out the existing conditions and the proposed project and has made it very clear to everyone. There's no reason what he said. We're seeking variances, obviously, for coverage and because this is a pre-existing non-conforming use. Noting our objection to the requirement for a special permit, we have, however, still provided what we believe are satisfactory grounds entitling us to a special permit. Most of the criteria for special permit are preempted by the fact that this is a pre-existing non-conforming building. I'm going to ask Peter to make his presentation.
Pam, could you swear Peter in, please?
Thank you, Lenny.
Yes, please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Peter Penoyer, 136 Madison Avenue, New York, New York.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm asking Graham to put up the rendering of Main Street. Graham, can you do that? We're very proud to be chosen for this project because it's very unusual in that it's a restoration of a building I've long admired. We're not really changing anything. I'd say we're bringing back what Amer Embry would regard as the most important elements of the design. At the center, we're opening up the porch, removing the non-original aluminum storefront system and all the advertising that blocks those arches now. We're restoring the window openings, putting in new windows, which will perform environmentally better, new shutters. Right now, you just look into the back of the framing and the sheetrock in the galleries. We're correcting that condition. We're removing 2 pylons and replacing them with 1. And as you can see, flanking the door, we're restoring those windows that have now been for a long time blocked up. The work around other sides of the buildings primarily has to do with accessibility and weaving the building back into the village in a more presentable way. Ed Hollander can address the landscape, but we are, among other things on Pondview, correcting a condition where the parking just simply rolls right into the road. There's no curb cut, there's no proper path, there's no proper way for handicapped to get to the front door. So in that area and in the back, it's about accessibility. There isn't even accessibility now to the Minnekes Garden.
I can't. I'm on.
I think someone's.
That's Lenny. We can all hear him.
Lenny. Hi, Lenny. Specifically, the building is not increasing in footprint. However, we are adding an areaway which will not be visible, which allows egress and light and air to the basement offices. The staff now is down there with absolutely no light. And that's a minor element that it will be completely screened. And we're cleaning up the rear yard, which now is a hodgepodge of storage and equipment and tarps and this and that, and building a very discreet, simple storage shed, which will be completely screened by hedges. Thank you.
Okay. Did Mr. Hollander want to speak since he's the landscape architect?
Yeah, and Graham, could you go to the next slide?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's for Ed Hollander. I think it'd be helpful to have this.
Hi,
Ed, Pam's going to swear you in.
Okay, now Pam, you should be able to hear me, but
Yes.
When I hit start video, it says you can't start your video because the host has stopped it. Now, many people have tried to do this to me before, but you're the first one to actively be able to do this. So
Try now.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you for not wanting to look at me. But if you want to see me, you're going to have to somehow let me in.
I'm not in charge of that, so okay. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
My right hand is raised. My
State your
name is
name.
Edmund Hollander, Hollander Design Landscape Architects, 200 Park Avenue South, New York, 10003.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank
There
you.
we are. Okay, my hand is up. You can see me. Great. Thank
Gotcha.
you to the board for allowing us to present this. It's, you know, everyone has lived and loved Guildhall for many, many years. And, you know, I look at this as a landscape architect, as something we're doing for both the village of Guildhall and for Guildhall, but also for the village of East Hampton. In many ways, you know, Guildhall and the library kind of create an architectural gateway to East Hampton. So whatever we do here is important for the visitors and the guests at Guildhall, but important in terms of the overall aesthetics and context and community in the village of East Hampton. So we take this very seriously. Our landscape plan is trying to restore and improve the aesthetics for the building and the streetscapes, but also just as importantly, trying to improve our ecological footprint in the village, reducing stormwater runoff, planting native plants, creating habitat for the birds and the bees, and trying to move the landscape of Guildhall in as green a direction as we can.
Okay. Did you freeze or are you finished?
I am finished.
Okay.
And happy to answer more questions.
Well, I think right now we'll move to the public and see what the public comments are. So don't go away, Ed. There might be questions for you.
Okay.
All right. Caller ending with 8019. You're on the line.
Good morning. This is Ann Rose.
Let me swear you
Do I
in.
need to get sworn in or anything?
Yeah, please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Yes, Ann Rose, 146 Main Street, East Hampton.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, as I said, I'm a neighbor at 146 Main Street, which, as many of you know, but some may not, is the corner of Main Street and Pond View. And I think that probably makes us physically one of the closest neighbors to Guildhall. We've always loved having them as a neighbor. They've always been great neighbors. And I personally, and this was kind of said a few minutes ago, but I also do consider them kind of one of the jewels of East Hampton. And along with the library, to me, in my mind, it really creates the entryway or gateway to sort of the town proper. So when I heard about the upcoming renovation, because mainly of our geographic location, I was selfishly very interested in the plans. That old saying that says neighbors make good fences, I don't buy into that. What I think is important and what my saying is that good lighting and good landscaping make good neighbors. So I was very happy to see how sensitive and how discreet their new lighting plan is going to be. And it doesn't feel like it's going to contribute to light pollution. That was an important issue for me. As for the landscaping plan, I don't think anyone can argue that that current parking area on Pond View is going to win any beauty competitions. I feel like the new plan is going to be a huge improvement with the addition of trees and more greenery to the area. I'm also happy to hear about their focus on stormwater management with their use of porous pavement in the new parking area, their addition of catch basins. I think that's all very important to the area. But personally, the small detail that made me the happiest on this is the fact that they want to use native ground covers in place of traditional grass in many areas. I just feel like that small detail to me speaks volumes to how sensitive Guildhall is with this project in terms of their impact on the environment and on the town. So I feel like they have focused not just on the aesthetics, but on the overall impact on the town and the general entire area. So overall, I feel this renovation will be such an asset, not just selfishly to my little corner of Pond View and Main Street, but to the entire town of East Hampton. So I fully support it, and I hope it will be improved. Thanks.
All right, that's 2 minutes. So caller ending with 9713, you're on the line.
Hi. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Sarah Joe Strickland. I live in Bridgehampton at 369 Butter Lane in Bridgehampton.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I am the director of the Hampton Ballet Theater School, which is located in Bridgehampton. And we've been a rental entity of Guildhall for over 13 years. I run a ballet school, and we do 2 performances a year at Guildhall, one in December, the Nutcracker, and one in the spring. My cast includes over 125 kids and adults, and the most important thing to me is the safety of my children and my adults when they come to Guildhall. So any improvement on the outside of the building regarding parking or walkways, anything that would improve the outside would be a plus to the school and would alleviate parents' worry about safety for their children. Also, the outdoor landscaping, we often are there for hours on end. So to have a place where we can go outside and take a break from the theater and sit in beautiful gardens, that's also a plus. I feel that Guildhall is an important aspect to my school. It allows our community theater groups to perform there, and it also, our audience spans from not only from Montauk to New York City, so it's not just people coming to Guildhall from just their parents, local parents, but it has a reach from Montauk to Manhattan. And I feel like anything that's going to improve the parking, especially, and the safety of people walking into the theater is a great thing. So I totally support the improvements at Guildhall. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Jodi, you want to go to our next caller, please?
Yep. So caller ending with 6132, you're on the air. And remember, we're keeping the comments just to 2 minutes.
Pam, can you swear them in, please?
Sure. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Caller ending with 6132. You're on the air?
Oh, yes. Hi. Yes, this is Helen Harrison.
Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Helen Harrison. I live at 760 East Hampton Turnpike in Sag Harbor.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I'm here to comment on the John Drew Theater proposed renovations, and I do believe that the Zoning Board of Appeals does have jurisdiction here because, as a precedent, on June 23rd, 2006, the restoration of the John Drew Theater was reviewed and approved on the previous renovation, which was completed in 2009. Now, I've already sent a letter to the Zoning Board registering my objections, so I won't read the entire thing, but I will say that as a former curator of Guildhall, who has worked closely with the organization on events and projects for more than 30 years, since becoming the director of the Pollock Krasner House and Study Center in Springs, I'm acutely aware of the special character of its interior spaces. And I believe that the preservation of this unique community asset and architectural landmark really is a very important thing that the board should take into consideration and that should require different approach to the renovation and improvement of the theater.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Next caller, we're going 6622. You're on the air.
Oh, hi. My name is Alvin Zigmond. I live at 2 Villa Avenue in East Hampton.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I'm just calling in general support for Guildhall. I think that everything that has been proposed, and I really appreciate the first caller's characterization of the thoughtfulness that Guildhall has shown in considering the exterior nature of their renovations. And I think that same consideration and thoughtfulness has been put into the consideration of the redesign of the theater as well as the galleries, just to address Helen's concerns. I don't think that it's a willy-nilly approach. There is many minds are being put to solving some of the issues that the galleries and the theater face in terms of renovating and bringing them up to the level that this community deserves. And as somebody said, you know, the library and Guildhall being a gateway to the village. The library has gone through extensive renovations and very successful, even though they were controversial at the time. I think everybody can agree that it is a beneficial, and I think Guildhall and the community that it serves deserves that kind of consideration. And I trust that those that are undertaking the task are doing a wonderful job to address all of the concerns. So I fully support it. Thank you.
Next caller, please, Jodi.
Next caller, ending with 5145. You're on the line.
Good morning. My name is Carl DeBoer, 144 Main Street, East Hampton.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Well, it's very hard to beat the wonderful arguments that my neighbor Ann Rose brought to the board earlier, which I wholeheartedly agree, by the way. I'm a full-time resident on Main Street at 144 Main Street, been neighbor, indirectly maybe, of Guildhall for 44 years. And I want to make a couple of comments. First of all, Guildhall has been an extremely considerate neighbor. You would never know that they were in a residential neighborhood. Things go wrong, but things go wrong in all our places. And I want everybody to recognize the value that Guildhall has for this part of Main Street, which has changed over the last 40 years drastically, and not necessarily for the better. I'm talking about the traffic. But what I was hoping that with Guildhall coming to grips with the times and the new changes, it will bring more vitality to the neighborhood. Love to see people walking on the sidewalk in front of our houses, people chatting. You hear it after performances. It's nice to hear. And I wholeheartedly support every effort that they're doing. The changes that they're making are nominal, in my opinion. And I'm a preservationist. I would not be living in an historic home in Main Street if I wasn't. So I'm very sensitive to changes that happen around us. But here, the changes that were presented to me, at least, appear to be very much in keeping with the needs of a cultural institution that is so important for our area, so important for East Hampton, and so important for the vitality of Main Street. I wholeheartedly, having listened to all the arguments pro and con, I wholeheartedly hope that the zoning board will approve these applications and Guildhall will continue to flourish and continue to be a major part of the cultural society in East Hampton. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, that's 2 minutes.
Jodi, next caller.
The next caller ending with 8212. You're on the line.
Yes. Hello. This is Marie Toulantis, 25 Dayton Lane, East Hampton.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Yes, so I am literally a stone's throw away from Guildhall. I've owned homes in East Hampton for many, many years. My current place for 6 years, and prior to that, another home in the village for many years before that. And again, I just want to add my voice of support to everything that's been said. As someone who, again, lives literally a stone's throw away from Guildhall, I've used the facilities, visited, taken advantage of all that Guildhall has to offer for many years. And, you know, I just applaud this current plan to, you know, bring it up to a really world-class institution. I think it's great for the village, and I certainly support the plans in their entirety as they've been presented. Thank you.
All right. The last caller we have, ending with 5470. You're on the line.
My name's Mary Jane Brock. I live at 117 Main Street.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I feel a little like an echo because I think those who've spoken before have been so articulate and said it so well. But I too am a neighbor. I lived diagonally across the street from Guildhall for 25 years. I'm the other corner from the library. And then 15 years ago, moved a little closer to the village. But more than 40 years ago, when we bought the house at 173 Main Street, became involved with Guildhall as a volunteer and participant, and finally worked my way up to being a trustee today. I have watched as presentations have been made to us by this group of truly best possible, excellent designers. And I think, as has been said, Guildhall is going about this with the utmost sensitivity and thoughtfulness. And I heartily support and embrace these improvements because I think Guildhall is the Lincoln Center of Long Island. It brings so much to us, and I respect the way they're going about the planning and think it will be a win-win all the way around.
Thank you very much. Jodi, we have no other callers on the line, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so now I'd like to move to the board and hear what comments the board may have about this project. Joe Rose?
Yeah. Well, I want to echo everyone's enthusiastic appreciation for the important role that Guildhall has played and will continue to play in the village, the town, the whole Southport. That being said, a couple of questions relating to the issues on the front hall of the area, the terrace area, which shows tables and chairs out in front, and the access point in the front on the I guess it's the eastward side with that rail down. Is that, and the particular question is about the need and whether alternative locations were examined in terms of arriving at that, how deep the light well / staircase, is that going to be programmed as an entrance? Is that only an emergency access point, or is that going to be a regular entrance?
Did I answer that? We do not intend it as an entrance. It is simply there to bring light and air into the offices. We are providing a metal stair so that it could be used for egress. But I can't imagine that Guildhall would ever want people to actually enter the building through that way. It doesn't make sense.
So it's right. So it's not a required egress for emergency purposes for code.
No, it is not. The building currently complies.
Good.
It's primarily light and air.
Okay. And can you speak? Can someone speak to the other issue about the terrace area in the front yard setback?
Sure, I'll speak to that. It's Ed Hollander. The purpose for this was really two or threefold. One, as people come to Guildhall and congregate either before performances or after or in between acts of shows, the thought was to try to create a small discrete area where people could gather and sit and enjoy, the streetscape. I forget who mentioned it, but we also thought it would bring life to the street a little bit. Right now, people gather on that brick walkway, that brick terrace in the front, but adding a few discrete chairs on a permeable surface that allows them to sit down, and I think it will enhance the user experience, kind of the pedestrian access and life along the front of Main Street and Guildhall there.
Could I add a comment as an architect? Frankly, during intermissions, there simply isn't enough room for the audience, and especially some of the elderly audience don't have anywhere to sit. We see people sitting on the ground out there now.
And the lighting proposal for both the out there in front of, and the sign stand, is that going to be illuminated? I mean, in the rendering, it shows it being illuminated.
Correct. All dark sky compliant, all shielded, all very subtle. It's not an intention to make this, pop out on Main Street.
And what hours is that kind of?
I don't know. I can't answer that question. I can't imagine that they would want it, except,
illuminated.
I doubt it's an all night deal, but that would be up to the administration of Guildhall.
Andrea, you want to make a comment on that?
Sure. Joe, you're talking about the seating area outside, what hours that would be open?
I think, well, I'm sure he froze, but he was asking about the illumination of the sign that has whatever is occurring at Guildhall.
The pylon, it would be the same as it is now, which is it's very low illumination, and it's on all the time, unless there's some reason to turn it off.
Okay.
So I would like to ask a question. If Joe's, I think Joe froze, so not to cut him off. And along the same line of questions. So first of all, just to reflect my sentiment, I'm a resident of 127 Main Street, so I'm a neighbor. One of the reasons I am in East Hampton actually is because of Guildhall, an excellent institution, and I couldn't imagine a better team than having Mr. Penoyer, Mr. Hollander, both of whom I'm familiar with their work doing what they're doing here. The team's excellent. I think the approach that Mr. Penoyer has, I'm a preservationist myself, is very thoughtful, very sensitive. My one comment and request is that if there's any way the team can improve, and maybe they have already, the amount of screening from landscaping, especially with the parking lot, and that's always a good idea. And if they could take another look at that, and perhaps they have, and any additional screening through the introduction of vegetation is always welcome, specifically in regards to the parking area, which is an eyesore right now. So anything's an improvement. So I would request that. And secondarily, as to hours of operation, the only concern I have, and this is something that I voiced before when I had toured Guildhall, was this summer there were a series of weekend outdoor performances. One of which I visited. Was a stage set outside of Guildhall, and the light was very harsh, and the noise was very, very loud. I mean, I could hear it up and down Main Street, and it was very intrusive. And I'm just wondering that with the creation of new outdoor areas, is this something that Guildhall is planning to continue, or will they revert back to sensitivity that they've always demonstrated and containing noise levels to those who want to hear what's going on, as opposed to those who are forced to hear what's going on?
I'm happy to take that. Thank you, Shahab. The backyard theater that we established in the summer of 2020 was due to the COVID virus and our inability to have programming indoors. Going forward, if it is to be used, it will be for similar circumstances when we can't perform inside, if we continue to have issues with viruses. And when it is used, it will be with great sensitivity to the neighbors and the audio level. And neighbors just adjacent to us, they have my cell phone number in case they have any issues with sound, but it will be limited in use going forward unless we're stuck in a pandemic forever, which I hope not.
Okay, well, thank you. That would be my one recommendation, that because this summer really was very annoying. Other than that, I think excellent job, excellent work here, absolute asset to the East End, and we love you guys and what your mission statement is. And I think the plans that have been submitted by your team are outstanding. That's my commentary, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Shahab. Carrie, Andy, either of you have any comments you'd like to make? Carrie, I see you unmuted, so go ahead.
Well, again, I want to echo, I do think it's an excellent, much needed improvement. I'm really glad that you're addressing the parking lot, which I found so chaotic, and it can be very dangerous, people coming in and out of there. Additionally, I love the addition of the egress window in the basement. I think it's really important that they have light and access to get in and out of there. It's a safety concern. It's always a good thing. I just want to circle back. I just didn't get a clear idea about the tables in the front. So is that something that I get it on intermission that they'll come out and sit, but are people going to be eating there? Is that going to be almost this dining, or is there any of that? It's just going to be sitting between shows?
Yeah, it's thanks, Carrie, for that question. Yeah, so we have a concession stand inside, which is just prepackaged goods, candies, chips, things like that, coffee. The food will not be for sitting outside. We have a seating area inside. This is really to alleviate just what Peter was talking about. The theater has over 300 seats. The lobby has a capacity of under 100. So when we have something like the opera, which is broadcast from the Met, and that can run 5 hours, we sometimes have 2 intermissions. That's the primary attendance is senior citizens for that. You can imagine what the lobby is like then. So this is a way during nice weather for people to flow outside and have a pleasant seating experience. It's not meant to be a food service area or an area that's active all the time.
Okay, thank you, Andrea.
Thank you, Carrie.
Andy, did you have any questions? Otherwise, I have some.
No, I don't have any questions. I would just be reiterating everyone else's thoughts. So that's
okay.
Fine.
So the question I have is, why can't the people be directed to the garden at intermission as opposed to out in front? And seating be provided there, because as so many people said, this is the gateway to the village. Having table and chairs might seem like a good idea, but in the long run, it might not be so, with people congregating there, perhaps when Guildhall isn't even open or doesn't have a show going on.
I think one of the design theories of this is that the tables and chairs would really be out and be put out by Guildhall when performances were going on. I don't think the thought was to leave them there in perpetuity. And the other thought is that people actually add life, and people, the point of Guildhall is to invite people into the village, and then making a pleasant experience for them. I think, the idea is right. We don't want people using this as a park, but making the user experience at Guildhall while they're there, I think both improves Guildhall. I think it's an improvement for the village. I mean, one of the things that's so great about the village of Sag Harbor now is that there are people walking the street and bringing life to the street, and people really make the space, and inviting people to sit and to become part of the streetscape, I think, is actually a great benefit. And, it's not huge numbers. It's small numbers at discrete times in a discrete area.
In terms of the architecture, the access to the Minikes garden is relatively restricted. It's one door at the end of a corridor. So just in terms of moving 300 people through, it'd be, even if that was the direction, it'd be hard to do that into the garden in the back.
It's not realistic is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Phil, to add to your comment, sorry, my support of this was with the assumption that this is only in use when they're in use. The last thing I want is a bunch of chairs and tables sitting out there permanently, becoming a loitering area. It's right. at the very least, it's garbage and refuse, which inevitably collects areas like this. And at the worst, it becomes a loitering dark corner over there. So My assumption was very much what reflected, that this is only in use for a specific intended period of time and not just a general loitering area to be sitting out there.
So I have a question. Lenny, don't walk away. This one involves you.
No, I'm not walking.
So this is for both Mr. Messina and for Mr. Ackerman. One is, can we make part of this issuance of a special permit, Mr. Messina, that the front area will not have sound stages and sound events? I'm talking about the part between Main Street and Guildhall, not talking about the side, that won't occur out there, and that the table and chairs will be put out prior to, whether it be a concert, if there's a concert happening, if there's something in the theater, not just when the museum is open, and removed after the event, or shortly thereafter, within an hour or so. Is that something we can do, Mr. Messina? And is that something, Mr. Ackerman, that your client would be amenable to?
Okay, can I just, I didn't hear exactly at the beginning. I didn't hear. Are you proposing a covenant, or are you proposing a restriction?
A restriction covenant. Yeah. So
right.
as a condition that the space between Guildhall and Main Street, right? You have that 30, 40 feet.
Yes.
Not be used for an outdoor show or a concert. That type of stuff be limited to the garden.
Right.
That was one condition. The second condition is that the table and chairs only be put out prior to a show in the theater. Whether, I know there's comedy shows, there's ballet, there's the opera, etc., and then removed shortly thereafter, so that it doesn't sit out there overnight. It's not there days on end, and that they not be put out when there is no show occurring, because I don't want there to be any confusion.
I understand.
Yeah.
Let me ask Andrea. Andrea, this is a question for you. Do either of these strike you as something that we need further discussion on, or can you respond now?
Yeah, thank you, Lenny. So the first item, no further discussion. We're not planning to have any kind of performances in front of the building, no amplified music, nothing like that. So to me, that's completely fine. The second item with the table and chairs, I would be very grateful if we could have them out whenever the museum is open. We're not open late. The museum is open 4 days a week in the shoulder season, and then it is open 7 days a week in the summer, but closed at 5. So in terms of not having them out except for performances during the summer, we have performances that are irregular. We might have a children's magic show during the day. Then we, as you said, Mr. O'Connell, we might have musicians or comedy that night. So I think the idea of our limited staff putting tables and chairs out around hours like that, it gets very complex. But certainly when the museum is closed, which is generally by 5 o'clock, we wouldn't be leaving those out until late into the evening or anything like that.
So here's my concern is, as the plan was presented, Mr. Hollander mentioned that they see it as a place to gather at intermission, before and after a show. So, when it's the museum, I don't see the need for that. And again, it's the gateway to the village, and there is a concern. I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to agree with the implied condition about the temporary nature of those chairs. So we can discuss this among ourselves, I think, in terms of what the condition is, but that it be temporary and be tied to the use for a show I think makes a lot of sense.
Shahab, I'd
can
like
I say something, Phil? Phil,
Sure.
can I say something? I fully disagree with you guys. I think that we should leave it up to Guildhall at their discretion. It's furniture that they're probably going to want to take in anyway because they want to keep it nice. I don't understand the stipulations. I think that Guildhall is pretty responsible and pretty respectful to the area. So I think if that's your concern, I would say we should leave it up to them.
Shahab, I'd like to hear from you.
I tend to agree with you and Joe more. I hear Andrea's and she's right. I would not, it's just impractical. And from being involved in sub operations, it's impractical to move furniture in and out. My concern really is overnight. My concern is weekends when the museum or the show is not open. As long as the placement is sensitive, as long, and of course they're responsible for maintaining that area spotless, right? So the last thing I want to see is wrappers and candy and ice cream spots on the floor. So as long as they're made to fully, and I'm sure they will because it reflects on them. And it's just during normal working hours and it gets taken at 5 o'clock, the shot, part of the shutdown, they're taking it in. I don't have an issue with that. I'm fine as long as it's restricted to hours of operation, days of operation, and sensitivity towards the type of furniture, obviously, and cleanliness in the area.
Those are good comments. Joe? Because I think that's the sticking point on this application. And you know, Linda Morgan's going to ask me for a nexus probably because I see her on here, but you know, it's coverage. So Joe, I can't hear you. You got to unmute.
Yeah, I think there's plenty of nexus, and I got a lot of history on movable chairs and public spaces throughout New York City, Bryant Park, places throughout. I don't think we can work out what makes sense and what's reasonable. The goal is not to be unduly burdensome, but it's not a big ask to have it be appropriately managed in terms of how those spaces are used. This is not intended to be an ongoing picnic area for the on Main Street in the Village. I'm sure that's not Guildhall's intent either, and I'm sure we can over the course of our deliberations, we can find out an appropriate set of parameters.
Phil, this is Lenny. You know,
yeah.
Joe makes a good point. You know, Joe has the history here more so than most of us do. Could I ask this though? Guildhall is under a very tight schedule to start construction, and as you know, we have to go back to the DRB. Could we see could we close the hearing? And Vinny, this is you have to tell me if this is possible. Can we close the hearing so we can move forward? And over the next week or so, could we have from Village Council and board members some language that they feel comfortable with that I could present to the board and to Andrea with respect to you know, the chair issue? We know that that we can have a condition of no staging. Everyone's in agreement on that. But with respect to the chairs, maybe Joe could help with some language. And as long as I could see something, a paragraph that we could pass around, we could, you know, come to an understanding on that and keep the process moving. That's my intent here, is to keep the process moving if we can. Do you think that's doable?
Sure, as long as that is the wish of the board, I have no issue with doing that. And I'll work with Mr. Rose and the other board members, and then you and I can discuss where we, you know, specific language, nail down specific language.
Lenny, can I make a suggestion? Just as we did with West Dune, where we closed and did a determination, I think just in case we run into any issue, maybe we'll keep it open for written submission, and then this way we can, you know. Well,
that puts us another month behind, Phil.
That's actually, it doesn't. It doesn't, because like we did earlier
with West Dune,
earlier with your office, we closed and we voted at the same time. That, you know, consecutively at the same year.
Right. Okay.
So we could do that if the board wishes.
I'm okay with that.
As I understand, we're coming back to live in May. So that will give us an opportunity to get the determination, and we'll resolve this before. Okay, that's fine.
Bite your tongue, Mr. Ackerman. Live meetings in May. Stop that.
I'm looking.
Just
Yeah, I'm
thinking about
looking.
that.
Actually, I'm going on a diet so I can get into my suits again. I'm looking. I am looking forward. I am looking forward to getting back live. You know, that's the highlight of my month is when I can perform in front of the board. No, it's going to be very
Counselor, can I
exciting.
get a ruling on that?
Yes.
All right, so the plan is we're gonna leave the board open. Joe, you're gonna, with Vinny kind of assist here so we get a workable plan that Guildhall can work with, that it's not unduly
Sure.
burdensome. Andrea, you good? Okay, all right.
Yeah, we'll be fine. All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
All right, so let's, and I'm just going to repeat, I'm going to repeat one more time for those callers that are concerned about the interior of Guildhall. It's agrover@guildhall.org. The phone number is 631-324-1831. Andrea Grover is the person to express those interior concerns to, and she will put them in front of the board. So, all right. So
Very well, thank you very much.
All right, and Pam,
Ready?
yep, you want to move on to public hearing notice for Lily Pond Equities, 33 Lily Pond Lane?
Yes, I'm ready for that.
A request is made by Lily Pond Equities, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-1313-11.1 for a one-year extension of time of a coastal erosion hazard area permit and variance granted by the Zoning Board of Appeals on March 12, 2021, and amended April 9, 2021, that authorized the construction of additions and alterations to the existing residence and the construction of a screened porch and accessory improvements. The subject property is 76,811 square feet in area and is located at 33 Lily Pond Lane in Residence District R160. The property adjoins the ocean beach and is located in FEMA Flood Zone VE Elevation 17 and Zone X. This project is classified as a Type 2 action in accordance with SEQA.
All right, Mr. Ackerman or Ms. Margolin, who's going to go on this one?
No, I'm going to.
Okay.
Tom Lawrence. Tommy, are you on, Tom? I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Tom.
Here I am.
Tom is there. Yeah, Tom is the construction manager on this project, and he can answer any questions. But you know, one of the things that this application focuses on is the fact that the coastal erosion law that we have has a very severe and short fuse with respect to its expiration date or sunset provision. You know, 1 year to obtain and develop the plans, apply to health, apply to DEC, and then go back to get a building permit. In our case, took us almost a year to do all that. I mean, we had an incredible amount of difficulty with, first of all, because of COVID, with the health department not functioning at full capacity, and then health department wanted before they would issue wanted DEC, and as a result, we still don't even have our building permit, which is pending this determination because the building permit was filed and the building department didn't want to issue a permit until we had the extension. I mean, it's a real short window for anyone to not just commence construction, but to complete construction. And that's something perhaps, Vinny, we should look at in terms of, based upon our experience of maybe extending out, because I think that's a carryover from the DEC rule where coastal erosion was only good for a year. Every coastal erosion application I've handled in the last 10, 15 years has required modification. Pearlman was numerous modifications, and wherever we started construction going up and down the ocean on Lily Pond and West End have required modifications. So I think this application cries out for relief, but I think perhaps we should legislatively look at at changing the rule and giving us a little bit more time. So Tom is available if you have any questions. I would request.
I will have some questions, but I want to just go, if you're finished, I was just going to go see if anybody from the public is on the line. Jodi, do we have anybody on the line?
We have no new callers on the line.
Okay. So, you know, one of the questions I had was when we were granting this permit, it was presented that the family needed the additional space, and now it's for sale, and I believe it may be. I believe, I'm not 100% sure, may even be in contract. So obviously, it's switching hands. So.
That's factually not correct. The family went to Israel. For a family event. Both Mr. and Mrs. Stark came down with COVID, and as of this morning, when I spoke to them, they're intent on not returning to the United States and staying in Israel, where their family is located. Their entire family lives in Israel. And the house has not been sold and is not under contract. They're going to offer the house for sale, but they don't even have, as I said, they don't even have a building permit to even start construction yet. And unless this is granted, they can't commence construction. And when perhaps the house is sold, any buyer of this house will probably come in and want to do a different project or a different house and perhaps start all over again. However, this property needs a building permit because of the coastal erosion limitations. So we need a modification so we can get our building permit.
All right. Does any other board members have questions? Joe Rose?
I have one point, and this goes to an issue that we discussed at the time of the original granting, which is there are some non-conforming, some items in the dune land that are not permitted, and it would be their removal is not constrained by COVID. So the lights and the things that should be removed, I would encourage. I'd have no problem with the extension of this permit, but it would be. It would make a lot of sense to remove the things that need to be removed, and it shouldn't have been there in the first place, and they should be removed now. We shouldn't have to wait, years and years for that to happen.
Joe, that's a good point. But let me ask Tom something. Tom, does the building permit cover these items? I don't know exactly what they are that Joe's referring to.
Yes, sir, it does. I have to swear Tom in first. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address for the record.
Thomas Lawrence, 68 Clinton Street, East Hampton, New York, 11937.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
And to answer Lenny's question, yes, Len, all the conditions stipulated in the ZBA approval are part of the building permit application.
And does that include what Joe's referring to?
Yes,
the violations?
But does it require a building permit to remove a violation?
I think it does. Yeah, but I just did not know, Joe, whether they were included or not. I believe it does.
I think it was
because they're in coastal erosion. See, they're in coastal or the dunescape. Are you talking about stuff that's in the dunescape?
Yes.
The fencing and the lighting.
Yeah, see, that all needs a prior approval. You just can't go in there and whack it out of there and remove it. It has to be done with construction protocol and the like. At least that's what Tom's saying. I don't know the answer.
I would just ask. I'd refer this to Billy and to the appropriate enforcement entities to see if to make sure at the soonest possible moment we can get the things that should be removed.
No, I understand. All right.
Motion to close, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. You're making a motion to. Does anybody else have any comments on the public hearing? Any other board members? All right, so Joe has a motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
All right.
Second
Phil,
from
thanks a lot,
Carrie.
Phil. Job well done, Phil. Job well done. Thank
All
you.
right. So
Okay.
all in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
As there is no other, thanks, Lenny. As there is no other business, do I get a motion to close this meeting?
Motion.
All
Second.
right. Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We're
Aye.
done. Everybody have a great day. Thank you all for your participation.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Chairman.
And your preparation.
Thank
Take care.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Bye.